Just checking the audio for the live stream. Thanks.
Recording in progress. Display that when it's red. Then you Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole for July 20th, 2026. I'm Kevin Murdoch. It's my pleasure to welcome you here. We have a bit of a strange meeting in that we have a Committee of the Whole, and then we will, at the end of that, adjourn and go into a council meeting. But this is a regularly scheduled meeting for this evening. We always like to start our meetings by acknowledging that we do our business in the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish peoples, specifically the Lekwungen people known today as the Songhees and Kasapsa nations, and how their connections to the lands and the adjoining waters continues to this day. Apparently, I'm losing my voice already. That's a bad sign. I'm going to grab a little water. First order of business is approval of the agenda. So if I could have approval moved seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed, not opposed? Councillor Braithwaite is expecting to join us a few minutes late, but we will start the business of the committee at this time. I just want to note that with the two meetings and fairly packed agendas, it's going to be a little tight for us to get through this, the two meetings in the allotted time frame. So I'm just going to ask all people participating, whether they're presenters or staff or council, that they or the public speaking, that we just try and keep our comments focused and on topic as much as we possibly can. We have adoption of Committee of the Whole minutes of the June 15th Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there a mover and seconder? Mover and seconded. Any changes, corrections, or amendments? Don't see any, so all those in favor? Any opposed, not opposed? Our next section is for delegations, and we have up first the Community Green Map delegation. So it's my pleasure to welcome up. I'm not sure if there's any, I don't think there's any staff introduction here, so if Maeve Leiden and Sam Mason would like to come forward, please do. You can demonstrate process for everybody else who will be coming to the same microphone over the course of the evening, which is just bend it towards you. You don't have to be too close. Yep. And you can just turn the microphone, the button in the middle, turns it on. And if you could just both state your name and your municipality of residence, that standard process for us for a minute, and then you're welcome to begin. And you have 5 minutes for a presentation, and we'll have an opportunity for council to ask questions. So welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Maeve Leiden. I live on Neil Street in Oak Bay.
My name is Sam Mason, and I live in Saanich.
Great.
So, good evening all, and thank you for allowing us to share tonight. My name is Maeve Leiden. My parents are actually from Galway. Just talked about that with Sean, S-E-A-N. Galway, Ireland, and I've lived in Oak Bay for about 20 years. Tonight, I'm joined by a few of our team and advisory members, Chris Skelton, who's with the Community Association of Oak Bay, Rachel Scarf, who's with the Friends of Bowker Creek and former Associate Vice President at UVic Research, and Sam, my colleague, who's a UVic Geography graduate student. We're here to invite the council and mayor to formally endorse and join the Oak Bay Community Green Map Project team as a lead partner, alongside the University of Victoria and many other environmental, social, educational, and heritage groups based in or connected to Oak Bay. Tonight, we will speak to three aspects, the three Ps of this project. First of all, the partnership. That's the first slide. We can keep that. The purpose and the people. We are not seeking funds from the district, but rather at this point, we want to form a stronger partnership to scale up our project and to build more momentum going forward. You have two documents with you, Mayor and Council. One is the executive summary of the project, backgrounder, created after widespread community consultations and events from 2022 to 2025, as well as the latest newsletter of the Living Lab project out of the University of Victoria. On Living Lab's behalf, I am co-chairing this project, the Green Map project, with Chris Skelton from the Community Association of Oak Bay. Chris and I each have decades of experience working as neighborhood, community development, planning, and educational with those projects in Oak Bay, the CRD, and across Canada. I've been with Living Lab now since 2017, and before that was 10 years with the Office of Community-Based Research at UVic. And 10 years before that, we started the Common Ground Mapping Project, which did many projects throughout the region and was connected nationally and globally to Green Map. We believe that the major success of the 2012 Green Map, and this was the big print map here, many of you have seen it, and the engagement process, which took 5 years that led to the map, was based on the facilitative leadership role of the municipality of Oak Bay, who, alongside the University of Victoria and other community partners, created a professional, high-profile, and engaging process that led to the creation of this invaluable community resource. The OBC Green Map also led to the creation of the Community Association of Oak Bay, and it fostered new connections and relationships within and between many groups and community members inside and outside Oak Bay. This included local First Nations members who for the first time in Oak Bay were invited to share their history, graphics, and place names on a map. This remains a core feature of our new Oak Bay Community Green Map. Songhees Nation member and Living Lab staff Jessica Joseph is a core member of our team. And I saw many of you at there was a Friends of Bucker Creek, page 3 of our Living Lab network. It talks about Sam did a presentation on Green Map. So this past May, we met with CAO Michelle Hunt and the manager of Parks, Rec and Culture, Thomas Soulier. Am I saying it right? From this meeting, we thought that co-creating and growing a new partnership aligning with the municipality's needs and current plans was the best next step. So for our project, based on our widespread consultations, we've identified 4 needs and key functions of the mapping project. Community building, it's in your brochure as well, local to global action, natural and cultural heritage, and placemaking accessibility. This brings a holistic approach to valuing and envisioning the community and helps to connect to both the land and each other. Regarding placemaking and accessibility, Sam Mason, our lead mapping consultant, and UVic Geography grad student will share our key features and potential functionality of the platform.
Thank you, Maeve. So I will briefly touch on the mapping and technology side of the project. Bear with me as I nerd out a little. Using the modern web mapping technology, we can create an interactive, easy-to-use platform that can bring everything together that makes Oak Bay unique, including natural spaces, heritage, recreation, and community initiatives, just to name a few. Another key goal of the project is to move beyond a static map. Because we're creating something that exists on the web, it can be continuously updated, sort of as a living resource that can grow and evolve with community. We also see this as a great way to bridge community engagement with municipal planning. We can provide some great geospatial information that can integrate into the existing mapping systems that the municipality currently uses. And ultimately, our goal is to create a local knowledge hub for those who live, work, and play in Oak Bay, while also strengthening the connection between community, project partners, and the municipality for years to come. Thank you. I'll hand it back over to Maeve to talk about the team on this project.
Final slide. So our core team, here are the names of those who put their names forward as advisors today to help with the project. And we hope after tonight to be able to explore and consolidate the most effective way to work with the municipality with the help of these folks. Chris Costin recently joined our group. And Tom Croft, who couldn't be here tonight because it's his birthday, he was a really big push behind this map, and Jill Croft and others. The others are listed as there. I want to mention Crystal Tremblay is a professor of geography, John is a professor of history, and Daniel Brendel-Mosick runs the whole map library and heritage collection at the university. Wendy Brower is the head of Green Map in New York, and she's super excited. She actually thinks Oak Bay was one of the most beautiful maps in North America, and it was the first one to actually acknowledge First Nations place names. So she's very excited and committed to being part of the advisory moving forward. Again, former Mayor Chris Costin and former council member Tom Croft also see municipality as an essential partner to ensure long-term sustainability and success. All of us are committed to the project. We see the vital need to create a community platform, bringing together all the diverse groups many of the diverse groups and interests in Oak Bay and aligning with the values and visions that we shared tonight. So thanks for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Leyden. We have a couple of minutes here for questions. If there's any questions from members of council, go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think I've been able to see it before in a little more detail, so that's good too. And so it's nice to see it moving along. If you could perhaps just speak to what you anticipate or project for expected annual costs for
Yeah, we created a budget of about $30,000 cash, and then there's in-kind. Depending on what the scope, and that's sort of what we thought we could do over the next 2 months, is scope out what's needed. I've written many different proposals. I've read, $100,000 proposals with the university or whatever, but that's just for core time for our graduate student work and for hiring students, but just minimal $30,000 and then in-kind as well. I'm giving in-kind through Living Lab, UVic, and all the professors are and others as well, as they did last time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just if I could continue, Mayor, through you, and perhaps if you could just review what's the ownership model? Like who's going to be responsible for maintaining and updating the map?
I think we'd write that out in the partnership agreement, as we did last time. We had a partnership agreement with the municipality where they shared data. So the community association is the, kind of the community-based lead partner, and we see UVic and the municipality as a lead institutional partner. So we'll have to work out who owns in the end the data, but it'll probably be a shared agreement. We want to keep it in the public domain. That's why UVic is so important. So it'll be probably shared between UVic and the municipality with the community association as a lead partner.
Thank you. Anything else?
So then just perhaps if I could explore that a little, so the updating of it, who, we'll check it all. Who
Yeah,
checks it all,
no.
updates it?
Well, I think a lot of these projects become self-sustaining, and that's why we think we need to think it through in terms of a vision. With Vic West, with Fernwood, with Highlands, we've done many different projects. That's in the DNA of what we would create. So we want it to be more sustaining and funded.
Thank you. Councillor Smart?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for the countless volunteer hours that go into this. I just had a couple questions, just really excited about this new digital version. Will it be like mobile friendly on a phone?
Yes, definitely it will be mobile responsive. We're planning to use Google My Maps right now, so it's actually a zero cost way to sustain it. And it's really neat with the search engine optimization. I can talk your ear off about that, but essentially it means you can get a lot of views very quickly. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and my other question was just having traveled in other cities recently,
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of communities doing similar initiatives, but with
Yes.
like actual physical QR codes on places in the communities to create awareness for the map itself and to
That'd be cool.
interact with the community. And I wondered if you'd considered that or if that's something like that you might want to do longer term.
Definitely. Having a QR code in the community is great, and we actually are seeking to create another print map once we have the digital one created. There's just a certain beauty about holding a physical map. I don't know, I feel like maybe it's lost on some of my generation, but I think getting it out in community is, it's great to have the QR code and then something physical if someone doesn't have a smartphone or they don't have access to the internet.
Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Thank you. I don't have a question per se, but through you, I just want to commend the project. And you just touched on a point that's very important, that we tend to forget that a lot of us still like the hard copies. So,
Yes.
and it reaches everyone in that regard, if you have a digital and a hard copy version. And it's a great looking product, all of it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Just wanted to quickly add with the city's issue, I think that's what makes it so important for me. I'm from a different part from Europe, but I was just returned from Europe as well, facing some real big challenges, and, I was in Belgium. And the wonderful thing about, if you look at the Green Map website, it just connects us. Like Port Townsend's been doing years using Green Map system, and they've done it they focus on food security as their theme, to increase food access, increase foods linked to rural and urban. Climate action in New York City and Milwaukee and Brussels, and it's just so exciting. And so it's a very important educational tool, and schools are a really important part of this. We've loved working with kids and youth over the years. And with the I work a lot with local First Nations kids. It'll be very exciting to have them involved as well.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Is there any other hands? So on behalf of council, thank you for the presentation. I think there's two great things about being here tonight. One is it raises public awareness for this. So as,
Thank you.
I think it's important that people are aware this project has been going now for a number of years to kind of get it ready, and it's going into more production and
Yes.
detailed planning mode. And I think it's also just, want to commend you. I do think you touched on it there with the community building portion, and that's, even the building of the map is obviously very significantly tool in terms of building community connections. So as you
Thank
list
you.
off all the different people and the different institutes and agencies and
Yeah.
societies and stuff, it helps bridge those gaps. And so just, commend you for the work
Thank
that
you.
you're doing, and look
And
forward
that's
to
what we
seeing
want.
that work
We want
going
to bridge the
forward.
gaps. We really want to help. So we'll just, can you keep in touch?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank
very
you so much.
Yeah. We'll leave some brochures and maps here. We have too many. Thank you.
Never too many. We move now to 4.2. The presentation was postponed, so we're going to move to section 5. This is an opportunity for people to provide all members of the committee to just update other members of council and the public to a degree about activities that they've been undertaking on behalf of the community, and provide really any updates and points of interest related to those committees that might be of interest to council or to the community. I'm happy just to kind of go around the table here if people are willing. And so I'm going to start it. I'm going to give Councillor Braithwaite the most time I can to get here. So can I start with you, Councillor Green?
Thank you very much. Well, to begin with, the Oak Bay Tourism Committee and Tony Joe and his pit crew, I call them, put on a very successful car show on Sunday. There was also a Jaguar show, I believe, on Saturday, but I really commend the Tourism Committee and Tony Joe and his team in particular for pulling off yet another successful event. There were over 300 registrants for that car show. And then there was the Pride Parade, which I attended. Do you want just a brief synopsis of the activities as well?
What do we think that would be of importance to council or to the public? So,
Well, I think so. The Pride Parade was well attended, and Oak Bay put their fire truck in the parade, and I was very excited because I got to ride in the co-pilot seat and pull the siren button a few times, so that was exciting. But Oak Bay was very warmly received, I thought. People were really very welcoming to our team, and there were councillors and the mayor and members of staff. Michelle Hunt was walking, so it was very well done, I thought. I also attended the Regional Water Supply Commission via Zoom this past week, and that is we have one last meeting before the election in September. That has been a tremendously productive commission, and they have a very great staff support. A lot of professional staff support that commission, and it's one of the most important commissions, I think, for the CRD generally. And then today I attended with our CAO the South Island Reconciliation Action Committee, and that will be one of the last meetings. I think there's one more meeting in September, and that has been interesting work. Thank you.
thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. I won't repeat ones that Councillor Green has mentioned, but I just wanted to say a big shout out and thank you to our Parks, Rec and Culture Department for the amazing pivot they did for our Arts Alive tour on last Thursday evening, where we had very unusually both thunder and lightning and rain. And it was still a great opportunity to learn about the art and to actually go out in the bus and see the art. And I had at the end of the evening, we did go out on the bus tour and really enjoyed the conversations with people on the bus. We had visitors from Saskatchewan with us who'd come specifically to see one of the installations. So it was a really lovely evening, and I making that kind of on the fly changes to the program was really well done. So thank you, everybody. And then the other thing, I just want another parks event. We opened a new park. We opened the official opening of the Quimper Park since our last committee of the whole meeting, and that was really a fun evening where we got at least sunny weather. It was a bit windy, but anyway, I've had no committee meetings, actually, no additional committee meetings other than council and committee of the whole since the last time I reported. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Watson. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would just echo Councillor Watson's comments about the successful restructuring of the Arts Alive tour. The Arts Alive tour is always a real highlight for me, and I enjoy making the trip around, but I was not particularly looking forward to riding around in a thunderstorm, so I appreciate the alternative. Thank you so much for that. It was just an exceptional event with great presenters, and always just enjoy that event so much and hearing from the artists that are involved in it. It's a real credit to the community. I guess I will just mention very briefly, as you mentioned, Your Worship, the item that was previously scheduled for the Heritage Foundation has been withdrawn. The Heritage Foundation is working very hard with extensive support from staff in developing a new constitution, revising the previous document. It is, they are casting their minds very strongly to it and doing a lot of really detailed work on it. They would wish to continue to work on it, had some more work to do and some more details to iron out, so that's why it's been withdrawn for this time. But when you see it again, when next available scheduling, you'll have a revised version. So that's a reflection of how hard the Heritage Foundation is working in conjunction with staff to get a new product, and there's been a lot of work going on. Thank you to the volunteers on the foundation that have been doing that work. And I suppose I will, it's not inside Oak Bay, but I had a really fantastic, I think most people in Oak Bay, it's a very popular regional draw, but just had a really great time at the Moss Street Paint-In. The Art Gallery Greater Victoria's Paint-In event was on Saturday that I think many people from around the region attend, and I was there volunteering for a little bit for part of the day and saw, I think, as I mentioned to Councillor Watson, I think I saw pretty much everybody I know from Victoria at the event, and it's a real credit to the region, not specifically to Oak Bay, but I will just congratulate the Art Gallery and all the volunteers that worked on that event. And then last, but certainly not least, I think it's very important to inform council. Council will have already sort of seen correspondence to this effect, but it's been announced officially by the Greater Victoria Public Library that they have announced the appointment of their new chief librarian and chief executive officer. That is Stephanie Hall. Stephanie is coming to the GVPL with about over 20 years of experience, most recently at West Vancouver Memorial Library and previously as CAO for the Okanagan Regional Library System. And comes with an extensive amount of experience, a huge amount of enthusiasm, and just will be a great credit to the organization. As council has heard me mention before, it is not really possible to replace Maureen Sawa, who has served the GVPL ably and exceptionally for better part of 16 years now. But Stephanie coming in will provide a new leadership and different energy, and will sort of guide GVPL on into its new phase. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's a very exciting appointment, and I know that the rest of the GVPL board is excited about it as well. So thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. This past month, I attended a BC Road Safety Strategy Engagement session to support the progress towards Vision Zero, Vision for Zero traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries by 2030. So there was discussion around the framework and the action plan where municipalities can make their own targets towards that. And there is an accompanying grant program for that up to $20,000 per project. I also wanted to mention a save the date coming up for an architectural bike ride in Oak Bay on Sunday, August 23rd at 3 p.m., hosted by Capital Bike, and the theme is Adapting to the Future, Buildings in Our Changing Times. So mark your calendars for that date.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think everybody's covered off on all the social activities. There have been quite a few, so I won't speak about that. I will just perhaps update council and the community on where we sit with funding for MIST, the Mobile Youth Services Team. In my role with Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee, we have been advised that the funding was rejected by the feds, so that means we're still at a hard stop by September 30th if we can't find a way around this. The committee we've now sent out more correspondence to Will Greaves and Stephanie McLean and a long list of MPs. It was funded previously by the Department of Justice Victims Fund, and although the work completely aligns with the goals of that funding, there's pressure on funds, and so this one is not funded yet. It's really difficult because the counselor position for the integrated team the program sits between federal, provincial, and municipal responsibility. And so it's very hard to align all of those groups. But when the funding streams end or fail to align, the impact is really felt locally first. Losing the program would remove a practical prevention model at the exact point where intervention can still change outcomes. And it will place more pressure on police, schools, families, community agencies, crisis services, and counseling programs. So I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a long summer again on this committee. But nevertheless, we are actively pursuing every avenue that we can, including, of course, to the CRD. So we will see. But other than that, no, it'll be a hard stop September 30th if we can't find the funding. So that's my report.
Thank you. Everybody else was so much more uplifting, Councillor Patterson. I've just come back to a couple of things that people touched on. One, I just want to acknowledge, was mentioned there was a Jaguar show. That is the largest one in North America. It draws people from all over Western U.S. and Canada, which is always quite interesting. And I believe there's around 15,000 visitors to the car show on the Avenue on Saturday, or Sunday, I should say, which is a pretty impressive turnout. Coming up this week, there's Yoga in the Park, which is about 15,000 people or so as well. It's a bit of exaggeration. As well as Music in the Park this Thursday. So I encourage people to go to that. On Saturday, there's Garage Elium all across Oak Bay, so just be aware there's going to be lots of traffic of people going around, bike and car and other. And there's also the Chrysler Car Show, which I hadn't seen before, happening this Saturday at Windsor Park. And I think it's just, I want to just, the last thing here on my list, just I made a note when Councillor Appleton was speaking to about the Heritage Foundation, for which he has been the liaison for a number of years now, and has done a really admirable job. They are the ones, for people who don't know, who do provide grants for people who are restoring heritage homes. They put on all of the heritage talks, which we get great turnout to, and also are the ones who sell the centennial plaques. So that they do an amazing amount of work to just sort of bolster, educate, get people sort of excited about heritage. And so thank you, Councillor Appleton, for your work as liaison and for that organization. And we look forward to they're just presenting for us their constitution and bylaws as they reimagine themselves to be effective for the next coming decade. So look forward to that. We move next to the public comment and question period. This is just an opportunity for any member of the public to speak to us on items that are not on the agenda tonight, but are of general interest to the community. So we don't have a huge crowd in the chambers, but if anybody here wishes to address council, you can just put up your hand and I'll invite you forward. Yeah, please come forward. Anybody online who's on the Zoom call can use the raise hand function within Zoom. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can call the 1-855 numbers and follow the directions in the agenda package. And within that, you have to hit *9, not #9. We've had that mistake before. *9 to raise your hand on the phone dial-in. With that, again, you can just redemonstrate the right process, name, municipality of residence, and feel free to address us. You have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Anton Brackage. I'm a resident of Oak Bay. I would like to speak today just, again, to the perennial issue of housing. I am concerned at the rate at which the lack of affordable housing in Oak Bay is being addressed. I understand that there's a lot of conflicting interests here. I understand you have to weigh all sorts of concerns from within the community, with the environment, what our existing bylaws are, et cetera. But there does seem to be, I think, a tendency to too quickly reject new housing development proposals. And certainly, I think from the public feedback we hear in this chamber, I don't know if they're the most numerous voices, but certainly the loudest voices tend to be against new development. And I understand people don't want, maybe you don't want noisy construction in your neighborhood. Maybe you don't want a big new building looming over your house. But something, maybe you're concerned about the environmental impacts. It's all fair. But at the end of the day, change is going to happen whether we want it or not. If people can't afford to live in this municipality, over time there'll be fewer people living in this municipality. And that means less tax dollars, that means less money going to maintaining infrastructure. And so over time, if there's too much of this constant pushback against any new development, any new housing, more affordable housing, the result is not going to be to preserve our community from change. It's going to be to ensure that negative change happens outside our control. And then just speaking to it from a personal perspective, I work 40 hours a week. I have an associate degree from Camosun College. There are very few apartments in Oak Bay that I could afford. I currently live with family because I haven't been able to find a place of my own yet in this municipality. I don't want to leave this municipality, but I mean, that's the situation here. And, you know, I hear in all these debates a common refrain of, we don't want this to happen because it will damage the character of the neighborhood. I would ask, what does it say about the character of a neighborhood and a community if people can't afford to live here? So as we head into an election, I would like to see the council really look at more urgently addressing the shortage of affordable housing in Oak Bay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brackich. Anyone else wishing to speak to the council on any item? Again, items not on the agenda, but of interest to the community. I don't have any hands raised online, and I haven't seen any other hands in the chambers. So with that, I will now move on then to section number 7 of the agenda package. Oh, I have one hand raised online, a little late, but I'm happy to go back. I have Kathleen Matthews' name showing on the screen. If you could just introduce yourself and municipality of residence for the record, you can have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. I would just like to follow up on the gentleman who just spoke and appreciate the affordability crisis. I'm wondering what we can do about these big buildings that are being built, new buildings that are being built, these fourplexes, and how when I go past them, there's not a single tree left on the property, which is characteristic of Oak Bay to have this urban forest. And I'm just wondering why we don't encourage existing houses to be renovated to allow more units within those existing houses. Some of these houses are quite large and could probably accommodate, you know, a couple of units or maybe even 3 units, maybe not 4, but at least it would preserve the character of the property. It would preserve the trees, and it would, the renovation of the house might be, you know, at least keep the character of the neighborhood intact, but still allow more density. And I don't know how to even present that idea at all. I guess the other thing is I would appreciate if somebody could give us an update on what's going on with Spewang and the decisions towards that, because there have been surveys, there's been a lot of articles in newspapers, and it would be nice to have an update from you folks as to what your timeline is and what you're thinking. So those are 2 different things. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. On the first one, it's you're right. The decisions around specific zoning and allowances for infill housing is a topic for council. So there's ones in place now and a review process to see what's working and what's not. As for the second, we are posting as soon as we have any information to share. It's regularly posted. This is, you referred to Spewang or Spehung, which is, a lot of people also know as Oak Bay Marina. It's really about the marina operations, not about the site per se. That process right now, seeking a marina operator for the next 25 years. All the information on that is available online. If you just go to oakbay.ca/marina, oakbay.ca/marina, that's the best place to get information. It will always have information up to date. Should never be more than 24 hours out of date. So that's the best advice I can possibly give you on that one, Ms. Matthews.
Okay, thanks you. I didn't realize you were updating that regularly. I'll check that out. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. I'll give another pause here in case there's any other hands that want to raise. Okay. I then move to section 7. So this section does allow for public input, and just so if people aren't familiar with that process, we will have an introduction of the item from staff. We will have a chance for council questions. We'll have an opportunity for comments or questions from the public, and we will have then open it up for any comments or questions from members of the public. Ultimately, we'll come back to the committee for direction. This is a committee of the whole. We're not making decisions here. Most of the items in this section are for information, so we'll typically receive the information. but it's here both for public interest and for council interest to understand what's happening, and in the case of the first report, to receive a financial update, which is part of our regular process. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Lockhart, our Director of Finance. Please welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have with me here tonight Darcy O'Neill. He's the Manager of Financial Planning and Business Support, just in case you want to get into any detailed questions. And I'll jump right into it. So the trimester report provides Council with an update on the district's financial position for the period of January to April 2026. The report includes budget to actual variances, year-end forecasts, capital project statuses, the staffing vacancy rate, and procurement activity over 25,000. Overall, the district remains in a strong financial position and is tracking closely with the 2026 council-approved budget. Based on actual results and annualized forecast, the district is projecting a $1.7 million operating surplus at year-end, which represents a combination of favorable departmental revenue and expenditure variances. This represents approximately 2.7% of the total operating budget. The forecasted surplus demonstrates prudent financial management and provides the municipality with the ability to offset potential future unfavorable variances. And with that, I'm available to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that. I'll turn to and I did just want to recognize at the end of the last section, the public input, Councillor Braithwaite was able to join us online, so welcome Councillor Braithwaite. I turn to councillors in person or online if they have any questions here for Ms. Lockhart. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just with regards to the variance with the police expenses, I just wanted clarification on, is this seen as a temporary variance, or is it likely to continue on, more of a multi-year level? If you could just provide some clarification, thank you.
Yes, through the mayor.
I'm just going to point out that we have Ms. Lockhart in the room, but also we have the Chief Chan in here as well, if there's any more detailed answers that council wishes to have.
Yes, thank you very much. Through the mayor, I can make some general comments on the variances. We are still in the process of honing our projections in terms of the benefits for the trimester report. And so with this variance, we expect that we'll probably see a bit of a reduction in terms of the negative variance coming forward in the 2.2 reporting. Having said that, I would invite Julie Channon to come and speak about some of the challenges, I guess, that the police area is maybe experiencing.
Sure, go ahead, Ms. Channon.
And through you, the mayor, thank you for the inquiry. I just want to bring to your attention that historically the Oak Bay Police Department is run with usually 2 vacancies a year, sort of providing that inflated or false buffer of about $300,000. It's a bittersweet comment I'm going to make that we are fully staffed at the Oak Bay Police Department since our transition May 1st. Taking back major crime services and records, it's been vital that we have those positions staffed to mitigate risk and to ensure that we are delivering the highest quality service to our community and the importance of ensuring safety within our community. So that was only realized after the budget was presented. So I'd like to thank the financial team just for implementing this trimester reporting or forecasting system, because to be honest with you, historically, a lot of our bills come in at the end of the year, at the very end of the year, and sometimes into the following January. So to have this forecast, to know where we are, where they're projected, and just also a reminder that when I was creating the police budget to be submitted to the board for approval, that I was doing that with the assistance of the finance department, but also doing the 5-year review of what our actuals were. And for lack of a better word, or using my mom's words, really sharpening my pencil to be as accurate as we are, not inflating anything there. that might not always be the best way, but it's important to me to know what those actual costs are and base that on there, not just what I think is going to happen. We do have some unknowns this year with the transition. It's vital for our team to ensure that we had our records well supported. We've developed a staffing transition plan, had support from the police board to hire 4 months in advance of replacing a retirement, which is key to ensure that we are supporting our team through that transition, which by all accounts is going very well. But I think this is really important information that we're getting early on, and already with our initial reviews of that first report, we're seeing some areas of correction that we can work on and where we turned our minds to before trimester 2.
And I might just add, as a little sort of point of procedure going forward, in the fall, in September, October, the police board will be getting the actuals to year, and we'll be developing a preliminary budget for consideration by council by the end of November. And probably near the beginning of November, council will see it. So that process will be underway, and a lot more of those kind of questions will be answered at that time, because of course, that will be the decision point about what will or will not continue, and what they would recommend coming back to council. If that helps. Anything else?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I just had one additional question, and it was with regards to the line around property tax penalties and interest. Just noted that it was a fairly significant amount, and I just, of course, just questioned whether or not, and I'm not sure if it's evident at all, that we're seeing sort of a higher trend towards seeing more property tax penalties and interest because of affordability issues. And I wondered if staff had anything to share around that, just so that we can be informed and sensitive at this table around the repercussions of what our community is dealing with as far as affordability, or if that is actually a fairly typical amount that we would see for property tax penalties and interest. Thank you.
Sure, I'll turn it over to our finance team. Go ahead, Ms. Lockhart.
Yes, thank you very much. Through the mayor, in terms of the property tax penalties, we have just finished, I guess, the property tax due date, and, we are finding that, it is not unusual to have a number of people experiencing late fees and penalties, and, we have projected, I guess, the full amount of the budget. It is still fairly early at this point, to understand, I guess, the full extent of what those penalties might be, but we are expecting that we probably will realize that amount. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hunt?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll just remind council as well that the 10% penalty is actually imposed on us by the province. It's part of the community charter, and so that is something we can't change, and we must levy if property taxes are not received by the due date.
Thank you. It's probably a wise policy, in truth. Okay, Councillor Appleton? Oh, that's right. Councillor Braithwaite, that's a question online.
Thanks very much. And just a follow up to that, I wonder if staff have any comments on whether or not the increase of deferments or the increase of non-payment is because the province changed the deferment rates on people who were deferring their taxes. And I wonder if we've seen an increase because of that, or if staff have any knowledge around that.
Thank you. Just for clarification, are the increases actuals, or are they projections, given that this was a very recent cutoff for the tax payments?
Yes, through the mayor, they're actually predictions. And so we've basically predicted or forecasted to budget the full amount of those property tax penalties there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to touch on, I know in the report, Corporate Services have mentioned the increase in election costs due to one of the reasons that SD 61 is not sharing in those election costs. And I'm wondering if we have an estimate of the net increase to Oak Bay from School District 61 no longer participating in that cost sharing agreement. If we can maybe have an explanation, because I know we received a bit of an explanation, but perhaps for the public to understand a little bit more, it might help for them to hear a little bit of an explanation.
Okay. Sure. I'm not sure who I should direct that one to, if it's Ms. Lockhart or Ms. Anderson or Ms. Hunt. Ms. Hunt.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll start. Yeah, I think in the last election, we collected about $22,000 from the school district, which helped towards the cost of running the municipal and the trustees election. In terms of the changes from the school district, I don't think we've been, provided with a rationale other than that they would like to go back to specifying what the School Act says, which is, recovering that, we charge them the incremental costs associated with running their election. So there is still discussion happening with the school district on that change in policy.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then my last question is around the projected 1.7 million of a favorable variance. Do we know how much of that is the result of true operational efficiencies and how much is simply due to some of the vacancies or the projects being deferred? So I guess in other words, how much of the surplus is actually available for council to consider at year end?
Through the mayor, I can say that as the year goes on, we'll probably be able to be in a better position to say what is available for the surplus. At the moment, we do not have the exact numbers that would relate to staff vacancies within that $1.7 million amount. If that is something that you're interested in, we can pull those numbers together and give that to you later.
Yeah, I think at some later date is fine, but thank you very much. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there other questions for staff? Just one other question I had that wasn't asked was just in the engineering and public works, we have a variable variance there, but there's, we're over on things like storm sewer inspections, tipping fees, contaminated soil removals, et cetera. I'm just wondering if we see those are, substantially increased costs. Or those, if we have any sense of sort of the long-term projections of that sort of balancing out, or are they more structural in nature? Just curious if I know Director of Engineering is not here tonight, I realize, so I probably can't get into any of the weeds of that, but if you have any sort of sense of where that's heading. Oh, he's online. Okay, and he's unmuted himself, so I will hand that question over to Mr. Rennick. Welcome, Mr. Rennick.
Thank you for the welcome, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question. There was a significant cost overrun in storm sewer CCTV and repairs, and that was as a result of very heavy rainfalls that we experienced in the area in December 2025. It led to a significant amount of flooding and maintenance work, and that's driving a lot of that operational overage. Coming into budget for next year, really what we need to take a look at is, are we adequately funded? And it ultimately becomes kind of a governance decision for council, like how much. One second, bud. Sorry, I've got a 3-year-old trying to talk to me. It'll ultimately will become one of those governance decisions for council, like how much do you put away for snow removal? It's really how do you budget for an extreme event, and we will help council make an informed decision about. You want to make sure that you carry enough to see you through a wet winter, but you don't want to over budget and overtax. So hope to be able to give some of that information to council at budget time, and I hope that helps.
It does help. Thank you very much, Mr. Rennick, and your son made us all smile in the room, so no worries about that. I don't see any other hands. Oh, Councillor Braithwaite, you had another follow-up question?
Sorry, yeah, I just thought of one other question that I had wanted to ask about, and that was around the housing directive projects. There's a forecast of about $240,000 to be $240,000 over budget, and I'm just wondering whether staff can explain whether those increased costs are primarily the result of the provincial housing legislation, and if so, do we anticipate any additional budget amendments for later this year?
Let the police chief go and let Mr. Bowl join us here at the main desk. But Ms. Hunt, you can provide an initial answer.
Yeah, I'll maybe chime in. Thank you very much for the question. One of the good news pieces of this is that some of those variances will be covered by a receipt of a $200,000 local government development approvals process grant. So some of these projects are related, and you'll see a report later this evening on optimizing our development processes. And the budget did not include include that potential grant, and so those overages will be covered primarily through that grant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. In addition, a couple of other projects that have been signed off in April. We're hiring costs, but also some of the things that were budgeted in 2027, 2028 are now taking place a bit earlier. So all in all, it all fits in the Housing Action Program budget, but the timing is different and the amount for individual projects has changed, and that's going to be addressed with a financial plan amendment in the near future, but that's the background and the reason for those higher than expected expenses. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm actually, since I see our manager for facilities is here as well, I might just ask a facilities-related question, and that is just on the lease-related revenues, which are under budget, which is consistent with our trends. I'm just curious if there's, maybe this will go to Ms. Lockhart, I don't know, but is there a strategy to kind of address the gap of the recurring revenue gap on the revenue properties?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I will refer that to the facility staff. Graham, thank you.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, through your worship. Those budgets are consistent year to year, so it's more of an over budgeting, an optimistic budgeting track that we take for our lease agreements, and opportunities that may come up with different events that we have. So it's been very consistent year to year. It's more of a what we budget. We try and be optimistic.
Thank you very much for that. We move then, seeing no other hands. Oh, I guess we need a recommendation here, which is the recommendation here is just the motion to receive and to refer, the motion be forwarded, motion to receive be forwarded to council to special meeting following. Can we do those two together, or should we do them separately?
Mayor, do we not have to have public input? Sorry.
We do. My apologies. Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. I'm moving a little too fast. Is there any members of the public, either online or in person, who would like to address council on item 7.1? This is the 2026 first trimester financial report. I don't see any hands, so I'm going to come back to this table. Councillor Patterson moved the recommendation, seconded. Any further discussion? Just say on behalf of council, thank you for this. I think these kind of reporting and updates both to the public and council are super important and really help us understand where we're at in the middle points of the year. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. We will see that recommendation again at the council meeting following. We move to section 8. The section does not have subject to public input. Item 8.1 is the District of Oak Bay Emergency Program update. We have our Deputy Fire Chief Brock Henson here with to do the presentation. Welcome, Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. I also have with me Ms. Jolette Shank. She's the Emergency Program Manager and really is the backbone of the program. We don't have a presentation prepared for you tonight in this spirit of time, but I will point out some highlights of the activities that we've been working on. So we've recently completed a community emergency preparedness survey, and that survey is very helpful for helping us focus our public education outreach, right? And so that has been recently completed. We recently accessed a $39,000 grant to create a level 1 and level 2 emergency operations center at the fire station, which is for all district representatives to use in the event of a major emergency. So thank you to the UBCM for that funding. And also of note in there that is quite pleasing for us is the alertable emergency notification tool. As of May 2025, we had 5,000 subscribers within Oak Bay. We are now up to 8,000 now. So yeah, those are kind of the highlights of the report. Of course, there's a lot more detail there. And myself and Ms. Shank are happy to answer any questions if you may have some.
Welcome, Ms. Shank, to the meeting. Thank you for the report as well. I understand you did a lot of the work there, so thank you. Are there questions to staff on the report in front of us? Go ahead, Councillor Watson. And Darcy,
Thank you. Thanks for coming this evening and presenting this to us. I had a question just about the tool that you just referred to. How are you letting the community know that that exists? I didn't actually know that it existed until I read the report and then immediately subscribed. So I'm now 8,001 on your list of people who are using it. But I just wondered what's the approach to letting people know that tool's out there?
Ms. Schenk.
Okay, through the mayor. Our primary method of letting the public know about this tool and its use and how to subscribe is through our public preparedness presentations that we schedule 3 times a year. Next year, we're looking at increasing the offerings to 4 times a year. So that's a good opportunity for us to raise public awareness to this tool. Another way that we do that is through other public outreach events, such as Oak Bay Night Market. We have a booth there every summer. During Emergency Preparedness Week, we set up a booth at the public library. So those are opportunities to speak to the public about preparedness in general and to promote the alertable tool.
Thank you. Do you guys have your, this is embarrassing to ask, but do you have your own web page where some high-level information, including the plan and the whatever, is there?
Yes, we do through the mayor. There is an emergency program webpage. We have our emergency response plan posted on the webpage, the community risk assessment, general information about preparedness, and also information there about how to subscribe to the alertable tool. In fact, if people want to subscribe, that's where they are directed to that webpage.
Thank you. And then I have one, the community questionnaire was really interesting in terms of the kinds of things that you asked people to respond to. And I'm curious about how the impact of electrification of our vehicle fleet, of people's personal vehicle, the total fleet of vehicles in the community, how that would change the direction or the needs of emergency planning given our reliance on vehicles that can be moved in the event of major emergencies, disasters.
Through the mayor, one thing that allows us to speak to the public about is just lithium-ion battery safety, things to look out for, ways to stay safe using those types of batteries. But I'll let Deputy Chief Henson speak a little bit more to that because that has more to do with fire.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and through the mayor, in the context of a major emergency or disaster, I've been to one twice down in Christchurch, and even with fossil fuels, there will be a shortage as well. So while we will have power and charging issues with electrical vehicles, we will also have challenges with fossil fuel vehicles too.
Thank you. I have in my speaking order Councillor Smart and then Braithwaite.
Thank you. Councillor Watson actually asked 2 of my questions. But through you, Mayor, my other question was just with regards to, I found the survey was so interesting and helpful to look at, but I was really surprised by the lack of awareness in our community about the emergency program. I think I probably personally just subscribed to all the district's channels and I'm at all the events, so I see you everywhere. But it was a bit shocking to see how much people generally in the community aren't aware. And I just wondered if will future work likely include trying to figure out like a potentially different strategy for how to create more awareness in the community?
Through the mayor to Councillor Smart, yes, that's one of the reasons why we have done this. So now we want to get our information out there with broader reach, and we'll certainly work with Ms. Cosgroves with respect to communications. But the glass half full part of that question is we have 75% of the population that wants to come to a workshop, which was great to see too. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question in regards to the accessibility planning. I was really surprised to see that only 17 households reported accessibility challenges because I thought that was pretty surprising given Oak Bay's older demographic. So I'm wondering if you believe that this survey would actually capture the vulnerable residents, and if it doesn't, then how might we reach out to those who weren't able to complete the survey?
Ms. Schenk?
Through the mayor, it is difficult to know exactly who the survey reached and who was able to respond to it. What I can say is, from my perspective, when we also offer preparedness presentations virtually. So if people request presentations, we can offer them to groups of 10 or more at a facility, or we can do them virtually. So that is a way that we attempt to promote accessibility of the personal preparedness message that we're bringing to the community. Do you have anything to
Thank
add,
you.
Don?
Sorry, can I go ahead?
Deputy Chief Henson, go ahead. Anything else?
Through the mayor, I would just add that regionally, there is lots of emergency planning that goes on with respect to vulnerable populations. There has been some GIS mapping. It is very important because the vulnerable populations are disproportionately affected by a major emergency. And a lot of these individuals have care providers or family that care for them. So part of our presentations and public education is making sure that people think about that, not just as themselves, but also people that care for others and or organizations that do.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And if I may, Mayor, I know that through the Blockwatch program, we often do a lot of, as Blockwatch captains, we often do a lot of promotion on the emergency program within our Blockwatches as well. So I think that really helps too. On the alertable subscriptions, and you said that it's raised up to almost 8,000, which is great. And I'm wondering, do we have a target participation rate for alertable? And also, do we know how we compare to other municipalities and other neighboring municipalities for how many people we have registered for that program?
Ms. Schenk?
Through the mayor, I don't believe that we have a way of comparing to other municipalities. In fact, not every municipality uses Alertable. Other municipalities use a different types of platforms, or they use the provincial platform, which is the Broadcast Intrusive Alert Ready system. So we can't compare it to other municipalities. I don't know about a target range for Oak Bay. I don't know if Deputy Chief Henson does, but we're just pleased to see the increase in the past year and hope that that keeps going.
Well, since we have an audience of thousands here tonight, in 30 seconds or less, explain what Alertable is, just so if people aren't signed up, they know why they should.
Sure, through the mayor. Alertable is the district's emergency notification platform. So if you subscribe, you can set the region that you would like to receive notifications for, and we use it to alert the public to things like earthquake, tsunami, wildfire, extreme weather events. So, and we decide when to alert in conjunction with the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. And so it can deliver life-saving information very quickly in the event of a large emergency or disaster. And you can subscribe by visiting the you can just Google Oak Bay Alerts or visit the emergency program webpage. Do you have anything to add? That's good. Thank you.
And just for clarity, that's the same platform that pretty much all of the districts or region uses, correct, for the alerts, or are there some variances from that?
There is some variance. I know Esquimalt uses a system called
Doesn't matter that much,
yeah.
just curious.
There are a few that use Alertable, but there are a variety of platforms in the region.
Interesting. Okay. Councillor Braithwaite?
Thank you. And so do we, would the, if we get an increase in subscriptions, would that require us to have additional funding for this program, or is it kind of an all-in-one funding for this program?
Yeah, through the mayor, that is a good question, and it could potentially raise the subscription cost of Alertable if we're charged on the amount of alerts that we send. So the more users that we have subscribed, if we do have to send an alert, that would increase the cost. But up until now, there's been no significant increase in cost from year to year up until now. So
Good, thank you. I just want to say thank you very much for the emergency program. I know that my husband and I have always had a really good emergency preparedness kit, and we invite neighbors over to have a look at it so that they can kind of go off what we have, and it's really, really helpful. And the program that you guys put on over the years has been great. I think from the report, I would really like to see perhaps a little bit more of a comparison to other communities, and then maybe it might be strengthened a little bit by some specific performance targets and benchmarks that we can kind of address to see whether the emergency program is becoming more effective from year to year, which I think it is, but I think it would be nice to have that written down. So that might just be a suggestion for the next report that comes out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Councillor Patterson, please continue.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for the report. I think that the survey, I did receive one, and I did complete it and send it in promptly, so I didn't forget. I think it allows now more planning and some ability to prioritize what needs to be done in the community. And the only thing I would add about the alertable system is it is a good system, but last year when there was high wind conditions out in Port Renfrew Way, they lost all communications, all of their emergency responders, other than the Crest radio system. I have to put a plug in there. That was the only communication system that in fact survived. So the only thing I would add too is perhaps as part of our personal emergency planning, we plan around it.
Thank you for that. I don't see any other hands, so we just need go ahead, Councillor Green, and I'll take a motion.
Thank you. I'll be very quick through you. Thank you very much for the report. And as you were talking, as everyone was talking, I was thinking about outreach strategies. And we do have some very active community associations in Oak Bay. I'm thinking of the Monterey Center, I'm thinking of the rec centers and so on. That is a great place to reach people, and particularly older people that may have accessibility issues. Oak Bay Volunteers is another great resource. So outreach in that respect, reaching out and working with those groups. And Oak Bay more recently has organized neighborhood associations as well. So those are all networks that you might find really useful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion here is very simple, just to receive the report and to refer that motion to the following council meeting.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Unopposed? Thank you very much for presenting here today. It's very important that this information get out. And yeah, if there's anything we can do to help raise awareness, please let us know. We're a big team here, so thank you. Moving then to item 8.2. This is the optimized development processes, outcomes, and key performance indicators. We have Mr. Bowl, our Director of Community Building and Planning, with us this evening. I'll give him a moment to sit down. Again, this is not for public input, so it's really just a presentation, an opportunity for us to ask questions. The recommendation here is to receive report, but really because this is an informal committee of the whole format, the idea here is that we're going to have a conversation about what we would like to see in those KPIs coming back. And if there's any suggestions or direction that we want to give, we can do that here. But it's not really by motion, more by kind of a point of conversation. So with that, I'll hand this over to Mr. Bowl. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and a short introduction shared with Ms. Cook here. And today's report is one of two. This one is more general about the project, and another one is under preparation to an upcoming meeting with more details and the project sign-off. So I'll start off with a bit of background to reiterate what this project is all about. But reviewing the development process has been on Council's radar for several years, and the context of this was initially efficiency, timeliness, and customer service. But in addition, major changes in housing policy also created the need to prepare for new housing and a related increase in applications as an additional objective. As part of the Housing Action Program, the first part of this review had been completed last year in 2025. In the assessment during that first phase, reviewed the status quo, compared to best practices in BC, and gathered input from applicants and staff, and recommended a program of initiatives. Strengths identified at the time, and this previous year's report is also attached for your information, but strengths at the time indicated an overall rating of 7 out of 10, both from staff as well as applicants. Timelines were generally acceptable, though there were some concerns in areas. And responsive staff and recent process improvements were seen to provide a good basis for further improvements. Weaknesses included the one-size-fits-all approach and staff capacity lag and increased interest. Also a lack of clarity for staff and for applicants, and the need for earlier input on project ideas. Since then, the district has made progress, particularly by introducing delegated approvals for a number of scenarios. And now that we are preparing for the implementation of the recommendations from last year, we have prepared today a report for you regarding the outcomes and performance indicators in more general terms, and Ms. Cook will speak to this further.
Welcome, Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Bull, and good evening, Mayor and Council. This preliminary report has been prepared to give Council a high-level overview of the main intended outcomes of CPP 78 and the types of key performance indicators that will be used to measure success of optimizing the district's development processes. Staff have prepared a more detailed report that will be presented to Council next Monday, July 27th. This report is intended to give an indication of the direction that staff are taking with performance measures. As described in the report, the key outcomes of CPP 78 are improved processing timelines, enhanced customer service experience, and increased staff efficiencies, as well as increased transparency. Transparency has been added as an outcome since staff undertook Part 1 of CPP 78, and this is based on an increased interest from the public in our development processes. This outcome will be applied as a lens across all the initiatives in CPP 78. For key performance indicators, staff propose to use a mix of qualitative and quantitative performance measures to measure the success of each initiative and the project as a whole. Quantitative KPIs will be focused on improvements in processing and approval timeframes, and qualitative KPIs will be focused on the applicant and staff experience. The report that will be presented to Council on July 27th will include a more detailed outcomes assessment and detailed KPIs specific to each initiative. As touched on by Ms. Hunt earlier when discussing the first trimester report, staff have been advised that we have been successful in our application to the Local Government Development Approvals Program and have been awarded $200,000 towards 5 eligible initiatives. So this is great news for the district and for this project. Subject to any feedback or direction that Council may have for staff today, we will present an updated Council sign-off document next Monday, July 27th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Turn this over to, so because it's not for public input and because it's sort of a general discussion kind of direction piece, and I welcome if people have feedback or comments or thoughts, questions, they're all welcome at this point. And just we'd like to, if there's any kind of guidelines you'd like to give in terms of how we're going to receive those KPIs, this is the chance to do that, and we'll get the report back, as we said, hopefully next week. Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Thank you. And through you, thank you, Ms. Cook, for the report. Thank you, Mr. Bull. And my question is, you said something that triggered the question in my mind. How do you define, for your purposes, customer? Is the customer, the overall community, is the customer the applicant? So I'm just interested to know how that term is used. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor. I would say that the customers, both the public and applicants, I would say that most of the initiatives are focused on the applicants or potential applicants. So for example, we have applicant resources as one of the initiatives, which can be used by anyone that may have interest in development in the community.
Thank you.
I have next on my speaking list, Councillor Patterson, then Braithwaite.
Yes, Thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff. Thanks so much for the report. I think that it's a good indicator that you're on the right track, so I look forward to seeing the next version that comes along. I guess the only comment I would have to make is focusing on effective and efficient improvements, but it's not just to satisfaction and time and whatnot too. It's really relative to the investment in time and resources that you put to it, because sometimes you can chase an improvement, but to get there, the input of time and resources for it is not totally warranted. So just I would caution that we be reasonable about it all too.
Councillor Patterson, I have Councillor Braithwaite and Appleton.
Thank you, Mayor. My questions are around the delegated approvals, and I'm wondering how you're going to determine, how staff will determine which applications will remain appropriate for council consideration and which we can safely delegate without reducing public confidence. And I guess around that same question would be, will the delegated decisions still be publicly reported so that the council and the residents can remain informed? Because I know that's been a concern.
Sure, Mr. Bull.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Yes, this is something where council has decision power, and for the ones that have been decided on already, which are for minor variances, but also for minor development permits, as well as minor heritage alteration permits, we will be reporting back to council about approved delegated variances, and those projects are also visible on our tracker as the approval process takes place. So there's some transparency there. For the ones that are still coming, there's a number of outstanding ones that council had asked for in the past, particularly upland siding and design comes to mind, but also strata conversions. Those are topics that will come back to you as part of this project, and you'll have a chance to weigh what kind of delegated approvals are appropriate for the district, and still have an opportunity there to decide what's next on that particular topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have one more question, Mayor, if I may. In the report, it suggested that efficiencies might reduce future staffing needs. And I'm wondering if we know how much the future staffing growth could be avoided through those improvements.
Mr. Bull, do you have a sense of staffing impacts at this point?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, not a lot of information available just yet. I think when these initiatives develop, we'll be able to get a better handle on it. It still will be hard to look too much forward, and that has to do with the different mix of applications that come in, both in the development planning area, but as well as in building permits. And we see variations from year to year. But yeah, for example, I think the delegated approval for some of the minor permits does save time. So it means that that time is available to apply to other applications that we currently are already receiving. So it does have an incremental positive effect that it takes longer before we're out of staff time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. I have next on my list Councillor Appleton and Councillor Watson.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. So my question is, I appreciate the content of the report. My question is actually with respect to just sort of in the outcome section, we're talking about increased efficiencies, and we're just kind of on that subject right now. The report makes specific reference to artificial intelligence tools and the use thereof. And I'm very conscious of the fact that the district does not have an AI policy or guidance to staff as to how those will be used. And it has been my experience that the technology has emerged and become incorporated into typical digital tools that would be used at the municipal level without substantive council discussion around sort of the parameters for its use. And different municipalities have adopted this in different formats. So I guess I'm interested in hearing from staff about what is the timeline as far as evaluating those tools. Is there a touch point for council? Is council is council in need of a policy document on AI to guide the use of the technology in this type of context?
Sure, thank you, Councillor Appleton. I'll give that over to Ms. Hunt. It's a bit broader than just the Building and Planning Department.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yeah, yes, through you to Councillor Appleton. Yes, absolutely, this affects the entire district. So staff have developed a policy around the use of AI tools just to provide some guidance to staff as they start to pick up these various tools. What we haven't done yet is actually assess what tools do we want the district to sort of embrace as our AI platforms. And I think as we're currently going through an IT strategy, which has got two phases, the first looking at resources and then the second looking at our sort of IT gaps and needs, that looking at AI through that lens at a strategic level will be happening later this year, early next year, and we'll be reporting back to council with the results of that.
Councillor Appleton?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I appreciate that clarification. I appreciate hearing that there's going to be a touch point for council with respect to the implementation of those tools. I would just say that, picking up on a comment by Councillor Patterson, I see AI very much, this is my own personal opinion, but I see it very much in that category of a tool that can be implemented with the idea of streamlining, but if the final product is not fully transparent and fully supportable and fully vetted by our own staff for accuracy, completeness, and mostly in terms of my concerns, security of public information, and where that information is being transmitted and stored, then it does not achieve the goal of better process for the community if we are losing data sovereignty or have concerns about security around it. And I appreciate staff's attention to that fact. Thank you.
Councillor Appleton, Councillor Watson.
That's better. Thank you, Mayor. Just an inquiry to staff as you move through this. I expect that looking forward to getting the report with suggested KPIs a week from now. But I'm just curious, over the last 2 or 3 years, there has been already some review of what's going on in the planning department and how you deliver those services. And I'm just curious to know, given that there has already been some business process improvements, how far you think you are on the way to where you need to get to. It's not like nothing has happened. Already, I know some changes have happened at the counter and some things are going on. So do you think you've got another 2 or 3 years work, and how do you actually integrate those changes into the processes as you're figuring them out and then implementing them? So I'm kind of curious about how that's going to work in practice as you take on these other projects.
Mr. Bowl?
Thank you, through the mayor. Yeah, I think in general, we're still at the beginning of the changes we need to make or can make. It's up to you to decide if we are going to make all the changes. But substantial changes are around delegated approvals. That makes a big difference for development applications already. We haven't done the same for building permits, and it is badly needed there because we're still using a one-size-fits-all approach there and have trouble. It's hard to do that improvising. You kind of really need a good system to fairly take different approaches for different types of permits. The other thing that we have been able to do with limited resources is e-apply for plumbing permits. So that's an online application platform specifically for plumbing permits. Has not been expanded to other building permits or planning applications just yet. The other thing that has been implemented successfully is e-inspections. So that allows people to book inspections for building permits anytime online. That also has seen a good uptake and is still increasing. One of the challenges we have, and that's where this project is really helpful, is this is a pot of money through the Core and Communities Funding and Local Government Development Approvals process or project. It allows us to make some major changes in a compressed period of time, particularly for the building permits, but also the digital tools around e-apply and My District is another tool we would like to set up. That really requires a focused effort over a period of time to set up these systems. Then the processes need to be adapted, but those are the big moves that still need to happen. And this program will be instrumental in achieving those kind of other big changes that still need to happen. Thank you.
Please continue.
And just to follow up, I'm curious about once the new processes are designed, is there any sense yet of what those cutovers look like and whether you actually transfer applications under the old system into the new ones, or do you just actually operate with two separate sets of processes for a while until the older applications have all been dealt with under the old schema?
Mr. Bowl?
Thank you for the mayor. The way we see this be implemented is over 2.5 years. It's not in this report, but we'll tell you more about it in the next report. So I think what has worked well with the change that we already made is to take a gradual incremental approach, even though in this project we're going to move faster. But it means there isn't a transition period where we're using both systems, and most likely, most applications will be finalized at some point. It's done, and make sure all the new ones get into the new system. If there's any kind of leftovers, we can deal with that, particularly in the development applications area, more easily. Building permits tend to go, there's more turnover in there, and there's shorter timelines usually. Shouldn't say that. There's definitely some permits out there that have taken a long time, but that's what I expect. So a short transition period where both systems apply, but eventually all the new ones will be entered into something new. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's everything for me.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Any other hands or questions, comments? I just have a couple to my reflections on this. First, I really appreciated the report. I think it's really important to recognize some of these are quantifiable, some of them are really not quantifiable, and some of them are just really things like, the complexity of applications has such an impact on the timelines that you can't, trying to set an arbitrary number doesn't make a lot of sense. That being said, and I look at those, at the proposed approach of, say, reducing application approval timelines by X months. I'm hoping that we can actually, if it's possible, and maybe I'll ask the question, if it is possible, can we define in more absolute terms what our goal is? Appreciating that it might not, we might take incremental time to get there, but if we have a more defined goal, reducing by is a very nebulous term, saying that our target is 2 months for an application, and then we can measure against that and see how we're doing seems a more easier way to quantify from my perspective. Is that something that we might include in as proposed options in the report?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have turned our thoughts to that as well, and the next report will have some indication of that and ideas and proposals. But yeah, as you also mentioned, important to see what changes we can make and what the effect is to later on in the project confirm exactly what those desired timelines are. I think it's really important at the end of the day we'll have to get a clear sense of what we're targeting. We even do that now, I think, even though it's more informal and more based on what we consider best practices. But I think to have more clear targets at the end of this project will be really important to know what we're aiming for. It's going to help with setting up the right process, but also determine the right staffing levels, for example, or also to give applicants a sense of this is what you can expect from us. And if it's not quite happening, then please contact us so we can see what's going on and if there's something we can do about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that, to my mind, if we set a target, then it'll help guide some of the decision making. So when it comes back to this table, we can say, okay, getting there is going to cost us. To Councillor Patterson's point, is the cost worth the money, or the benefit worth the money? It's hard to know that, and so having the firmest possible goals, even if we can't always achieve them, I think gives us some clarity. Will also help guide. There's some goals in here for things like 50% reduction in the number of departments involved. To me, that's an outcome of a bigger goal. If we want to expedite things, that would be okay. Yes, we agree to that as a process change. We probably wouldn't even come to council. It would be an internal discussion about what's necessary. But the assumption of risk of not going to those departments may come back to this table to say, hey, if we're going to achieve this 1 week turnaround or 24-hour turnaround or 2 month turnaround for these kinds of applications, we're going to have to take risk and we're going to have to not do these steps. But at least then we're doing it to a very specific target. And if we have to change those targets, I would say that's fine. That should just be booked. So maybe if we can kind of, if the report can include very specifics, that would be, I think, helpful. And then we can make changes to that, knowing that they're a bit of a guess at this point. And the other observation I have, and these are just more if there's ways of adding KPIs in here. A lot of the conversation in the report I read was about the more complex applications, the development permit applications, or the, as opposed to sort of the building permit process. And so if it's possible to include in there, again, specific recommendations or goals that we should be striving for perhaps different complexities of building permit applications, but, if there's ways that we can turn around minor plumbing applications and things in 24 hours, if that's a target, then we can kind of strive for that and understand the kind of tools and things that we would need to achieve those goals. Otherwise, as we're getting approval processes, we're ending up in a bit of a feedback loop of this is a good tool, but we don't know what the outcomes will be of that. So if it helps us achieve a goal, because I think there's probably a lot of weight coming off of staff where we can automate some of those more simple applications. And yeah, I guess I would leave with I don't want staff to be afraid of setting aggressive KPIs on this stuff. I think, if there's ways of saying, hey, we can do things in 24 hours for simple things, if that's a goal, I think we should strive for that. If that means assuming too much risk for the district, that's fine. That's something that council can say, look, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But if there's things like that we can do that improve the staff time to be focusing on areas of where their expertise is really useful, I think those are things that we should be considering. So I'd say don't be afraid of that, and I think also don't be afraid that we should probably caveat some of those, or these are the goals, and if we get 6 months or a year in and realize that's just actually not practical, that's a conversation we expect to have, the iterative approach. And I'll leave it with this comment. I thank you so much for this process of having this conversation here, to have this kind of discussion around when we say we want KPIs to be able to have kind of a nuanced conversation about what that looks like before you have staff go and write 100-page report on things. I think this kind of iterative approach to problem solving is really helpful for us as a council and probably for the public as well. So it's why we're doing these things and how we might get there. So thank you. Those are all my comments. And happy to hear opposing or disagreeing views on any of that stuff. Councillor Green?
I was just going to move the motion to receive the report.
Yeah, and we can do both. We can receive the report and refer that receival motion to the council meeting following.
I'll make both those motions.
Moved and seconded. So with this, another report will follow, as you said, expected next week with some of the more details on some of these KPIs and so forth. Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Cook and Mr. Bowl, for your report and the conversation. That's great. We move now to, sorry, I'm just going to get my notes in order. This is the problem with printing out pages and pages of notes for everything, as you know. Move to section number 9. This is the correspondent management policy updates. We have Ms. Anderson with us here this evening. So with no further ado, I'll allow Ms. Anderson to introduce the item.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The draft correspondence management policy before you responds to an outstanding Council resolution from 2023. Following a review of the previous version of the policy, observations of current district practices, and feedback from department heads and administrative teams, it was determined that substantive updates were required as part of the update. As a result, the version before you contains some rewritten material. The updated policy is intended to provide a clearer process for council staff and the public for how correspondence addressed to council is received, reviewed, circulated, and included on agendas or referred to staff. It is also intended to outline the distinction between governance-related matters for council and operational matters managed by staff under the direction of the Chief Administrative Officer. Attachments 2 and 3 of the staff report titled Operational Procedures and Correspondence Management Flowchart are provided to further clarify the process in the policy. The staff recommendation for the committee is to receive the updated policy for information and provide feedback on the proposed updates before the policy is brought forward to a council meeting for consideration of approval.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Just to make a point. So if there's feedback here for tweaking, that the motion on the floor will be the appropriate one. If council is actually happy with it as is, we could actually, when it goes to council, we can make a recommendation to approve the policy as is. And then staff are relieved from the responsibility of writing another report to bring it back for approval in future. But only if there's there's consensus essentially at this table for that it is good as it is. So with that, I'll hand it over for questions from members of council to Ms. Anderson. Councillor Smart.
Thank you. I really appreciate the report through you, Mayor. My first question was just with regards to when correspondence is received that is deemed to not meet our safe workplace policy. I'm just wondering, are the letter writers or email writers responded to inform them that their letter was filtered out or redacted? Thank you.
Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. From my experience at the district, we have redacted certain items of correspondence that haven't been respectful, and we haven't notified the writer. However, it is on the agenda, and they would be able to see that that section had been blacked out.
Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question to that through you, Mayor. So if a letter is sent that, would be entirely not appropriate, am I correct to understand that it would be dealt with passively then, and we wouldn't sort of take the leadership of responding to notify a person that it wasn't appropriate?
Sure, I'll give that to Ms. Hunt.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you to Councillor Smart. Yeah, I think if the content of the letter was not appropriate, absolutely, we would get back to the writer saying this will not be processed according to our policy, as it is, does not meet our respectful workplace policy, et cetera.
Yeah, I think in fairness, so for clarity for the public's benefit, I think the policy has been, especially if it's something directed at a council member, that responsibility tends to fall to the CAO and myself for that response. And for any staff-related items, it falls entirely to the CAO and their senior leadership team to do that response. Councillor Smart.
Thank you. I just had one other question. It was just with regards to email that is sent to obcouncil@oakbay.ca. I was just wondering, from more of a almost curiosity perspective of when we receive that email, is all email sort of filtered to some, is it delayed at all in coming directly to our inbox? Or if it's not an agenda item, does it come directly to us? Or does it go to the executive assistant and a period of time passes and then it goes to our inbox?
Thank you very much. Through you to Councillor Smart. Yeah, the executive assistant is one person and her days are full and her workload is full. And so sometimes, it might take a day or two for her to forward that on, but that is part of her daily duties, is to go through that. When she's away on vacation, the work is, the OB council inbox is covered by corporate services staff. And of course, they all have full-time positions with their own workloads. And so it may take you a little bit longer in those instances as well.
Thank you. Good. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions in regards to the operational correspondence as well. So I'm wondering if there's a reason that the staff responses are only shared with council at the discretion of the CAO, and I'm wondering if it might be more transparent for council members to automatically receive copies of responses to correspondence that's addressed to mayor and council.
Ms. Hunt or Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you to Councillor Braithwaite. I think, in general, most correspondence would be forwarded to Mayor and Council. I think allowing that flexibility, just speaking to Councillor Smart's point, if there was a particular email that, I felt or the Mayor felt, should be dealt with because it had some disrespectful language in it. So I think, this is just allowing a little bit of flexibility to deal with those exceptional situations.
Okay, that makes sense actually, because usually we would like to know how the matter was resolved. So your response makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. And then I do have a question around the late correspondence. So now we're going to be changing it to noon. I think it was 2:00 before. And I'm just wondering if something was received that had really important factual information in it, but it arrived after noon, is there flexibility with the chair or the corporate officer to circulate it if it could have some materiality to affect our council decision?
Sure. Ms. Anderson, my read of this was that the correspondence was circulated or would be circulated, just wouldn't make it onto the agenda package. Is that Is that not correct? No, I misread that. So maybe some clarification here
Yes,
is
thank you,
worthwhile
Mayor.
then.
If correspondence was
Later.
received after noon, it would be circulated to council after the meeting had occurred.
Okay.
And Councillor Braithwaite, to your point, about about if it had, a lot of times they do come directly to council as well. So if it went to, I think what Ms. Anderson is speaking to then is if it comes to the OB council or administration in that time, obviously it won't get circulated until after the meeting.
Right.
If it comes directly to members of council, they would have a chance to see it, or they may or may not at that point, close to the meeting time.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wonder now if it's more, if it's going to be better in some cases to tell people to actually write to us individually, or as like to each of our individual council email addresses rather than use the @Oak Council, if it's something that's important. But that's, I guess, something that we can discuss later. Okay, so then my next question would be around there's sometimes when we have land use bylaws where the public hearings are prohibited, the correspondence received after the statutory notice is withheld from us until after we've made a decision. And I understand that since that's intended to comply with the Local Government Act, but we've kind of dealt with some controversial rezonings lately, and so I'm wondering if staff can perhaps, for the sake of residents, because I think they find this confusing, explain the legislative requirements for withholding the correspondence in those situations, and then confirm that council is still receiving all information that the Local Government Act permits us to consider. And again, this is because I think that some residents find it a little bit confusing.
Sure, thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Ms. Anderson,
Yes,
perhaps
thank
you can
you.
explain the why.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The Local Government Act prohibiting a public hearing is council can't receive any feedback from the members of the public verbally or in written correspondence. So that is why we have written it, that we withhold it from council until after a decision has been made.
Okay, thank you. And then I think the report is great, but I think there's one suggestion that I might have, if I may, Mayor, and that would be, I'd like to perhaps see a sentence that would say something like, council members remain free to communicate directly with residents on matters of policy and governance while respecting staff's responsibility for operational matters. And I think that might clarify a lot for residents as well, and for council.
So do you have a suggested location for adding wording to that effect? Is it in the
no, I could maybe
management policy or in the actual kind of procedures portions?
I think probably in the procedures, and again, this isn't a criticism, it's just a suggestion, that because I think it would reassure the residents that the councillors aren't being prevented from communicating with them, and I think it would be important to state that somewhere in the report.
Sure. I always find it weird making things that we don't do, but it's entirely possible. Ms. Anderson, I'm going to turn to you for your wisdom on this one.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. An appropriate place, if that was an amendment to this policy, would be to follow 5.7. There's already outlining members may respond to requests for information that are routine in nature, and it would flow through after that item.
Okay, so your suggestion is that there be some language in there that just clarifies that where it is appropriate for council to, to
Communicate
speak
directly with residents, yeah.
Sure.
On matters of policy and governance. While we have to still respect staff's responsibility for operational matters.
Okay. So I'm happy just to let that be part of the conversation here, and I don't know if I'll see if maybe let's get some general tone of the room and thoughts on whether that's appropriate and if there's any other suggestions. I do want to just make one note, though, as you mentioned, maybe we should tell people to write council directly. I think it's really important for us to always encourage people to write to the OB council or to the admin, but just get it in before noon. The reality is that people sometimes just cannot get to their emails between noon and the start of a meeting, especially if it starts at 5 p.m. And so it's important that, the place that people are going to go to if there's lots of correspondence is to the agenda package, and it's appropriate for the public to be able to see all the correspondence as well. So I mean, if people can do that, I just want to think, if we're going to be telling people things, just that language, I always like to sort of get it in early, get it in often. That's the best way of getting it to council. Councillor Green?
Thanks very much, and through you, I really appreciate the report. I feel better informed than I did a year ago or 2 years ago, to be honest, and I really appreciate a copy of the responses from the Chief Administrative Officer, their copy to all of us. So I'm finding the information flow much more open and helpful. But I did have a question. A letter came through recently that was completely illegible. And I just wondered, I know, but is there a way of somehow screening that out? Or, I mean, I know it was, I wasn't sure what the purpose was, but I did write back with feedback. It makes it so difficult. Do we respond? Do we not respond? I couldn't actually understand or read it. So I just wondered, what do we do in cases like that? Is it appropriate to just send feedback to you that I was unable to understand it and read it? Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. I'm familiar with the correspondence you're speaking of, and in most cases, we may interact with the author, and in this case, we didn't have any we weren't able to interact with the letter writer. So yes, if you provide us with feedback, we can do what we can to make it more legible.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Chair. Just first a comment and then a question for staff about the policy, the proposed policy and the flow chart. I really like the proposal, or already it sounds like it's implemented, the 12 noon cutoff for that correspondence, because it was a bit crazy making to be getting it very late in the afternoon and like going, oh my gosh, now what do I do? So I think it's fair. I think it's fair to the public. I think it's fair to council that there is that time change. I have a question about public hearing matters and whether the policy might benefit or council might benefit from understanding what they would do about public hearing correspondence that they receive individually after the cutoff, and what their obligation is to not do with it, and whether that should be actually more articulated in the policy itself.
Ms. Anderson, something to think about?
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. That is feedback we could take, and we could address it when we report back with the policy.
Okay, thank you. So I haven't heard anybody else comment on Councillor Braithwaite's suggestion of adding the 5.7 in there. I think probably, or 5.8, regarding the sort of notwithstanding clause, which sort of says, this is it is appropriate for council to be interacting with the public in their duties, et cetera. But I think Councillor Braithwaite had better language than I did, but I'd be supportive of that, just, for the record. I think there's no harm. These sort of lays out what we shall and shall not do, but I think it's important. I think it's useful probably to make sure that there's this clarity, these rules don't in any way impinge the rights or responsibilities of a councillor to do their core duties, in case someone reads it that way and feels too constrained. So not hearing anybody else comment on it, I think that makes a certain amount of sense to include some language to that effect. Councillor Watson?
Yes, could I hear the language again? I
don't think we're setting the language. I think we're just sort of saying, is it possible to have something in there that sort of makes sure that it's clear that councillors still have the right to interact with the public on policy issues and in normal course of their duties. And I think we'll leave it to staff as to what they would take. And Councillor Braithwaite, I think, provided some suggested language or ideas, but if you don't mind sharing that with staff in writing, Councillor Braithwaite, if you have it, that would probably be helpful, but we'll leave it to staff to come back with their recommendations with that report. Okay, I don't see any other hands for suggested pieces, so the recommendation here is again just to receive and refer this for officially receiving into the council meeting. Moved. Is there seconded? Seconded. Thank you. Any other discussion before I call the question? Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Yes, thank you. I just want to once again emphasize that I feel now so much better informed than I did a year ago, and I just want to point out the things that meant a great deal to me in the report, that we will be more well informed, that the model is centralized and helpful for tracking and follow-up. Updated makes a really big difference. Increased efficiency, timely response to public writers, and reduces confusion and uncertainty for the public. I think all of those goals are achieved with this kind of policy update, and I thank you for it.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you for the comments, and we look forward to that report coming back. Is there any new business or notices of motion? Councillor Appleton?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just following along from the presentation that we had earlier on this evening with respect to the Community Green Mapping Project, I see that our guests made a request that the municipality become a lead institutional partner to the Oak Bay Community Green Map. And I'm just wondering whether or not, I would seek to pursue a formal endorsement by council of that ask. And I'm just wondering whether or not we might get potentially some staff direction as to how that might best be actioned.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor. I know the conversations have been happening with staff. I'm not sure we're entirely clear on how that happens. That conversation is ongoing, but Ms. Hunt?
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you to Councillor Appleton. I think a motion to direct staff to engage with the Community Green Map and report back on, the partnership model that they're seeking to seek council endorsement of that would be in order. I think we need a little bit more clarification between staff and the organizers to figure out kind of what that partnership looks like.
Yeah, it seems appropriate. Do you want to make that motion, Councillor Appleton?
If you consider that in order, then I'd be happy to make that motion, Your Worship.
This is really directing staff to engage with the Community Green Map people. Moved and seconded. Thank you. I don't think it needs a lot of discussion, but if there is any. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Look forward to that work coming back. Any other new business or motions arising, or notices of motion, I should say? No, I'm going to just get a motion to adjourn. I'm going to suggest we come back here at 8:55 to give people a chance to stretch their legs. Moved, second to adjourning, and we'll return here at 8:55. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed? For those online, please stand fast. We will be back here in 4 minutes. Do we need to cut over the stream, or is it just one continuous? We do for the second meeting, so there might be a slight, if you're watching on YouTube, there might be a hiccup between this stream and the next. So just please re-link after that in about 5 minutes. Thank you.